So good evening, everyone. My name is Felicia Whyte. I'm the Community Service Coordinator with Toronto Community Housing.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Walied Khogali Ali. I am with the Regent Park Community Benefits Coalition, with the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association, and also with the a long-term resident. Welcome tonight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fatheha Rahim, and I'm so happy that you guys have joined us this evening. I am a community animator as well as a Regent Park resident for about 19 years. So again, I want to welcome you to our revitalization meeting for phases 4 and 5. We will begin momentarily. And if you would like to have language interpretation, you can call one of the language lines listed here or listed in the chat. Also, if you have any tech issues, please email talkregentpark@torontohousing.ca. So June is National Indigenous History Month and is a time for learning about, appreciating, and acknowledging the contributions First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people have made in shaping Canada. We will start our meeting with the Land Acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We are all treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers, immigrants, newcomers in this generations or generations past. I would like to acknowledge those of us who came here forcibly, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. Therefore, I honor and pay tribute to the ancestors of African origin and descent. Additionally, tonight there is a vigil organized by the Mothers of Peace taking place in the Big Park in Regent at 9 p.m. to stand with our lost Muslim family and Indigenous children. Please bring a candle. We would also like to take a moment of silence to recognize the attack on Muslim family and community in London and recognize the loss of Indigenous children in residential schools. Please take a moment of silence for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Fatheha, for that wonderful introduction to our program. I would like to invite a Member of Parliament provincially, Suze Morrison, for some welcome remarks before we officially get started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Suze Morrison. I'm the Member of Provincial Parliament for Toronto Centre. Thank you so much for having me today. It's always great to be here. Although before I start, I do want to acknowledge that it's been a difficult week. It feels like tragedy on top of tragedy, with the 215 Indigenous children found in a mass grave in Kamloops, and then the tragic loss of an entire Muslim family in London, Ontario, in a terror attack just a few days ago. And then even just today, we heard of a homophobic assault that took place on Hanlon's Point on Toronto Island. And I just want to say to everyone in the community, there's just so much grief going on. And it's hard to have, I think, sometimes conversations about the future of our community when we're also simultaneously processing a substantial amount of grief. And so just to everyone in the community, I think be gentle with yourselves tonight. It's a lot. It's a lot, and know that there's resources available for folks if you're struggling. And I just wanted to put that reminder out to just be gentle with ourselves and each other as we have these conversations today. But you know, as we move into these conversations, I think today I want to, reassure the community that, I think it's incredibly important that the community's interests here are listened to by all the partners at the table, and that the community's that the community is listened to and taken seriously in terms of the things that you're asking for, and that you're treated as an equal and full partner in this process, and I think that that's really important. I also do want to say, while a lot of these conversations are going to be, more directly related to the relationship between, the community and at a municipal level through Toronto Community Housing, that I think there are some broader policy pieces that are going to be important to Regent Park specifically, at a provincial, that fall kind of under provincial jurisdiction. If we are going to see really a successful outcome to the redevelopment in Regent Park, and that's safe, affordable housing and a strong, connected community. And I think some pieces that I'm particularly concerned about at a provincial level, right off the top, I would say, is the recent changes that Doug Ford made to rent control legislation, which we're currently fighting. And the reason I'm concerned about that is that while we don't have a lot of purpose-built rental housing in Regent Park, we have one building that's going up. We do know that a lot of folks rent in the condos, and any of the new buildings that are going up in the next phases, any building that's occupied after November 15, 2018, under Doug Ford's rules, no longer has any rent control protections whatsoever. And so to think that we're going to have almost a dividing line between our community, so the older buildings and the older phases that'll have stronger rent control protections, and the newer buildings and the newer phases are going to have absolutely no protections for folks, and to think that we are going to have zero rent control in entire sections of a neighborhood that was intentionally redeveloped to be an affordable, livable, connected community is entirely shameful. So one of the pieces that I'm committed to, and I've tabled legislation to address, is to close that rent control loophole that Doug Ford has created. The second piece that we're pushing for right now is something that we've committed in the NDP Affordable Housing Plan. That's a commitment we'll stand by when, fingers crossed, hopefully we form government in 2022. But I think that the missing piece here is also, particularly the young people in the community that, maybe they grew up in community housing and want to be able to buy as young people starting their families and stay in Regent Park and stay connected to their neighborhoods and their families and their communities. And that's just a pipe dream that's completely impossible for young people to enter the housing market from a purchasing perspective anymore. So one of the pieces that we've proposed is a down payment assistance program that would be a 10% shared equity loan for first-time home buyers, knowing that it's that down payment that is the single biggest barrier, particularly for young people if you've grown up in community housing. So those are some of the pieces that I'm really excited about that I think will be an important part of the conversation around how do we ensure that Regent Park stays affordable, and that everyone who's called this community home for generations is able to stay in the community. And if folks have any questions about that, I'm happy to chat further. And as always, feel free to reach out to my office anytime. We're not physically in the office just yet at Parliament in Dundas, but once we get a little bit further into the reopening plan and we're able to get back to work in the office, we'll be back. But certainly we're working from home. You can get us by phone and email. Myself and my staff are always available to you if you need anything. But Miigwech, and thank you for having me here tonight, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Member of Parliament, Provincially Suze Morrison, for those really welcoming remarks, setting context to the importance of having this important conversation with care, especially with all that our community has had to go through. And thank you for reminding us about rent controls and other important protections that our community has had to ensure that our community is livable. So thank you so much. And I just want to remind folks that we've been joined by other elected officials, and we're going to be hearing from our local City Councillor Kristyn Wong-Tam soon. But we also have leadership from Toronto Community Housing, Danielle's Corp, Tridel, a new developer partner, and city staff, including the SDFA. And we also have our friends from Toronto Public Libraries and agencies from across Regent Park in attendance, as well as many folks who are from our neighborhood association, the coalition, and many residents who are involved in community work. So at our meeting today, Felicia, do you want to tell us what's on the agenda?
Absolutely. So today in our meeting, during our meeting, we will get a brief update on phases 4 and 5 of the revitalization, hear from the Regent Park Neighborhood Association, Community Benefits Coalition, the Tridel team, and learn more about community benefits and next steps. And of course, we will have time for questions and answers. You can submit your questions at any time throughout the meeting using the chat feature.
So I would like to introduce Peter Zimmerman from Toronto Community Housing, who is a Senior Director of Development at Toronto Community Housing. An interesting fact about Peter is that he helped out the community get the Regent Park revitalization started about 19 years ago. So Peter, do you want to go next?
Thank you very much, Walied. It's great to be here. I wish I could see you, and hope to see you soon in the community. At the beginning of any project, it's good to step back and reflect on the mission of our work. These are the principles that have guided our work in Regent Park over the years. These guiding principles were created in collaboration with Regent Park residents. I would like to highlight that we are committed to involve the community throughout the revitalization process, both in terms of the community benefits plan and with the physical plan as we develop new buildings. So the 12 principles of revitalization are to renew the Regent Park neighborhood, to reintroduce pedestrian-friendly streets and park spaces, to design a safe and accessible neighborhood, to involve the community in the process, to build on cultural diversity, youth, skills, and energy, to create a diverse neighborhood with a mix of uses, including a range of housing, employment, institutions, and services. To design a clean, healthy, and environmentally responsible neighborhood, to keep the same number of RGI units that existed before revitalization, to minimize disruption for households during relocation, to develop a financially responsible strategy, to create a successful Toronto neighborhood, and finally, to improve the remainder of Regent Park during the redevelopment. In addition to the specific principles that inform our revitalization work, all of the work of TCHC is focused through an explicit policy to confront anti-Black racism. You can learn more about TCHC's anti-Black racism strategy on our website. As the CABR strategy informs all of our work, we will be using an anti-Black racism lens as part of our engagement process in Regent. The old Regent Park was built in the 1940s and 50s, comprised solely of social housing units owned and operated by the city or the province. It is important to note that from the very beginning, the driving force for the revitalization of Regent Park was the tenant movement. Tenant advocacy for change combined with a recognition by the city and Toronto Community Housing that buildings were aging and that the community was hampered by poor urban design that isolated Regent led to the beginning of revitalization and to where we are today. Revitalization in Regent is focused on developing a mixed use and mixed income community. The new designs create stronger connections to the surrounding neighborhoods through an improved street network, with amenities and services spread throughout the community. Overall, the existing 2,083 rent geared to income units will be demolished and replaced. We will also build approximately 400 new affordable rental units and 5,500 market condominium and market rental units. TCHC has 2 development partners, Daniels for phases 1, 2, and 3, and Tridel for phases 4 and 5. TCHC has been and will remain the master developer of Regent Park. We are all working in collaboration, TCHC, Daniels, and Tridel, to make revitalization a success and to meet the social development plan goals. I'd like to turn it over to Joyce Ho, who is a member of the TCHC Regent Park team, to talk about where we are going in the revitalization process today. Joyce?
Thank you, Peter. In this slide, I will talk about the summary of rent geared to income units and affordable units built to date. TCHC and Daniels has built a total of 1,263 RGI units and over 400 new affordable rental units. Currently, TCHC's last rental replacement building in phase 3 is under construction. It represents an additional 189 RGI replacement units that are required in order to fulfill our obligation to replace all 2,083 RGI subsidies as part of the revitalization of the Regent Park lands. Recently, we've also made a minor variance application to add 2 more floors to this building as part of our efforts to create more affordable rental housing wherever we can. Once this building is complete, in 2024, TCHC will have replaced 1,476 RGI units by the end of phase 3. The remaining RGI units, just over 600, will be replaced as part of future phases. Next slide, please. This slide shows the timeline of the Regent Park revitalization. The approval to revitalize Regent Park was made in 2003, and shortly thereafter, TCHC put out its first request for proposal to select a developer partner to begin the revitalization. Since then, the Daniels Corporation and TCHC has partnered to deliver a world-renowned development that is well recognized as a leading example of a large-scale, successful, world-class integrated development. In 2014 and 2015, the rezoning of the lands comprised of phases 3, 4, and 5 was approved in 2014. In 2018, TCHC put out a public request for proposal to select a developer partner for phases 4 and 5. Through this process, Tridel Builders Inc. was awarded to partner with TCHC on the revitalization of phases 4 and 5, which was announced in December of 2020. This slide shares how residents were involved throughout the RFP process. Prior to the release of the RFP, TCHC met with 4 members of the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association, the RPNA, who reviewed the community benefit section of the RFP and provided input. In June of 2019, TCHC held 2 resident meetings to gather information on the community's priorities and concerns. We then summarized the results in a community conversations report and shared it with the developer proponents to inform their proposals. TCHC worked with the Revitalization Working Group to prepare and distribute information about the October 2019 community evaluation of developer proponent presentations, which is open to all residents in Regent Park. Information was shared with over 600 residents and revolved around informing the community about the RFP process, training residents about the importance of attending and scoring on the community presentation day, and involving them in what vetted questions should be asked of the developers. Over 300 residents attended the developer presentations and evaluated their CED proposals. Following the community presentation, the Community Benefits Coalition, whom we will hear from next in this presentation, met with TCHC to further prioritize community benefits. The result was the Community Benefits Framework, which was signed by TCHC and the RPNA in March of 2020. 4 members of the RPNA participated in viewing the negotiated CED terms prior to the December 2020 board meeting, which represented Tridel as the selected developer partner for phases 4 and 5. That's the summary for the engagement during the RFP process. I'll now turn it back over to Walied. Walied.
Thank you so much, Joyce, for that very eloquent update with regards to phase 4 and 5. Just as a reminder, we will be hearing from the Regent Park Neighborhood Association's Community Benefits Coalition next, followed by an introduction to Tridel's team. And we're going to learn more about community benefits and the next steps. And of course, a reminder for all of you folks who are participating that we have time for questions and answers. You can submit your questions at any time through the meeting using the chat feature. I just want to thank Peters and Joyce for that update with regards to the process and ensuring that communities' voices were heard. We've been working very closely with Toronto Community Housing through the Community Priorities Report to achieve community benefits agreement, which we'll talk about later on. But especially during the developer selection process, thank you for that collaboration. And what we also want to talk about next is the journey that was resident-led through the Regent Park Neighborhood Association's Community Benefits Coalition, and working closely with the Toronto Community Benefits Network and other stakeholders. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce one of our co-chairs of the Regent Park Neighborhood Association and one of the co-chairs of the SDP, the Marlene DeGenova, who is someone who will speak to how we started this journey. Marlene, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Well, the coalition was formed by the Regent Park Neighborhood Association, your RPNA, and it was comprised of TCHC and condo residents with the support from the local community organizations and the Toronto Community Benefit Network. The RPNA Community Benefit Coalition's mission is to maximize the value of community benefits for phase 4 and 5 of Regent Park revitalization. The coalition's goals are to influence the Toronto Community Housing request for proposal process, to negotiate for a strong community benefits agreement, and to fund the Community Priorities Report.
Thank you so much, Marlene. And this is a wonderful image of that historic moment in February of 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, where we signed the Community Benefits Framework. What I want to do next is invite the next speaker, Ismail Afra, who will be speaking to the history of how we got there. Ismail, please speak next. Welcome.
Thank you, Walied. Just as Marlene had mentioned, the work has started with the Regent Park Neighborhood Association, and we started with the existing 12 principles that spoke about getting communities involved in the process. In the beginning of 2018, when community members first found out that we would be going through a new rebid process, a new RFP process, the Neighborhood Association had wanted to improve phases 4 and 5 from what we've learned from phases 1 and 2 and 3. We began to engage residents, both market and TCHC, and we've gotten a lot of support from existing organizations in the neighborhood. Through that engagement, we started to form the Regent Park Neighborhood Association Community Benefits Coalition. That work began with the first contributing to the RFP process. As Joyce had mentioned, the team that went to provide input had substantial feedback and using community experience and community knowledge. We had added into the RFP language that spoke about community benefit coalition. We've added their language that spoke about having a long community process to get community feedback. Next slide, please. And we spoke about the importance of allocation and having community decide where the funds go. The work of the association has not been an easy piece. It's been a process of collaboration, a process of conversation, and sometimes a process of strong, debated negotiations. We, through the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association, made sure that we worked with Toronto Community Housing at multiple levels. We had a lot of input into the Revite working group. So for instance, the Revite working group was a group of residents that helped inform the developer presentation and actually helped design how that looked like. I remember at the time that group also made recommendation of increasing the community score, and we succeeded, and TCHC welcomed our advice, and we had a much more higher score when it came in the developer presentation. The RFP was our most influential contribution to the process. As I said, we secured in the RFP critical points involving the community in the decision-making, involving the community in the allocation process of funds. Next slide. And then through those conversations, we realized that we needed to validate some of the priorities. We had a community session, over 100 people, more than 100 people came, in which we talked about our own priorities. And we submitted a report to Toronto Community Housing to give it to the developers so that the developers would know what are the priorities of the neighborhood: community space, home ownership, sustainable funds for the social development plan, and that everything has to be community informed. After that, we wanted to secure what we argued, what we negotiated in a community benefits framework. And we've successfully signed a community benefits framework with TCHC, and that was signed by Lloyd Pike, a TCHC co-chair, and that's secured for us. It guaranteed all the rights we had in the RFP into the framework. At the end, we also made sure that this work, this community work, was centered on the social development plan. And we said that we wanted to put the oversight committee that will design, that will develop, that will engage the community under the social development plan. And currently we're working on a terms of reference for that group. I'd like to pass on to Waleed for others to continue.
Thank you so much, Ismail, for that wonderful background to how we got here, how we were able to secure community benefits framework, the work of the Regent Park Neighborhood Association's Community Benefits Coalition from the beginning, from the RFP process. I want to welcome Kumsa Baker from the Toronto Community Benefits Network, who has supported the coalition as a stakeholder, has helped inform policy at other levels, and is a subject matter expert when it comes to community benefits, to speak to the next slide. Welcome, Kumsa.
Thank you, Waleed. It's good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to share a little bit more about community benefits. It's probably a term that you've heard before, but I'm hoping to just share a little bit more in terms of what it is and how it can support, some of the objectives that the coalition, the Regent Park Community Benefits Coalition, has for phases 4 and 5 of revitalization. So in general, community benefits are additional physical, social, and/or economic benefits that are leveraged from major infrastructure and land development projects. I work with an organization called the Toronto Community Benefits Network, which is which we work across the city of Toronto. And we've been really focused on some of these large-scale, mostly public infrastructure projects, where it's taxpayers' money or public land that's being leveraged to build these type of projects, and to ensure that as the physical infrastructure is being built, that there's also a focus on also the social and economic benefits, and to ensure that there's a social infrastructure in place to help support the community long term. And some of the areas that community benefits is focused on include economic opportunities that promote economic inclusion for people from historically disadvantaged communities and equity-seeking groups. So ensuring that things like jobs, local hiring, equity hiring are key components of infrastructure to make sure that local residents have an ability to build out the communities in which they live in. Also ensuring that there's a contribution to the development of a system of training and workforce development programs that can help, that can enable economic inclusion, right? And so really understanding that there may be barriers, there may be a skills gap that folks in the community may need support, and ensuring that there are adequate programs for training and workforce development is really critical. Also, I spoke about social infrastructure. So ensuring that we contribute to the sustainable communities with neighborhood and environmental improvements. And so through the coalition, really trying to ensure that we're advocating for strong neighborhood improvements and investments into social infrastructure in the community. And lastly, to ensure that there are clear commitments, targets, monitoring, and accountability from all parties to deliver on community benefits. And so really learning from, phases 1, 2, and 3, and really trying to ensure that through this process that there's a signed community benefits agreement that can really speak to some of those commitments and targets and accountability for how all the parties will ensure that some of the priorities that are identified in the community benefits in the community benefits plan that is negotiated will follow through. And so there will be ongoing engagement opportunities for all residents to really contribute to identifying priorities for community benefits, which will end up being negotiated as part of a community benefits agreement. I'll turn it over back to Walied. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker, for that wonderful and quick orientation to what community benefits are. We have a lot of residents who have been part of this conversation since 2018. And thank you for reminding folks about what community benefits are and what our objectives are. I wanna invite Miguel, member of the Regent Park Neighborhood Association's leadership team and member of the Community Benefits Coalition, to speak next to our accomplishments. Miguel Avila, my friend, welcome.
Thank you, Walied, for the opportunity to share the accomplishments of the coalition prior and during the COVID-19 pandemic. We participated in aligned community benefits objectives through their RFP. We consulted and involved residents in the development of the community priorities report. Created the coalition website. Please visit regentparkcoalition.ca for all the work that we have done is all archived in that website. So you want to read about the community priority report, everything is in there. We included a community benefits in the mandate of the Regent Park Social Development Plan, one of the greatest success of the community activism. Coalition members deputed at TCHC board meetings and city council. A lot of us, we go to the city and speak on support of the community benefits and also the board meetings, which is really good to see our community in action. Co-created and co-signed the community benefits framework with Toronto Community Housing, and in the middle, at the beginning of the pandemic, which is really historical and something to be proud of. And organized and co-hosted with TCHC a community benefits town hall meetings. And we have had the support from several members, elected representatives here in this call, Suze Morrison, Kristyn Wong-Tam. We didn't hear much from the office of the MP for this community because he was not available. Well, our goal at the end of the journey is to sign a tri-party community benefits agreement with Tridel, TCHC, and Regent Park Neighborhood Association as the voice of the residents. That is the ultimate goal, a tri-party agreement. And we're negotiating on that in that regards as we speak. Thank you, Walied. I pass it over to you.
Thank you, Miguel. And now I would like to ask Fatheha to welcome us to the Tridel team. Well, take it away, Fatheha.
Thank you. So I want to thank you, Marlene, Ismail, Kumsa, and Miguel. and Walied, and the other members of the Community Benefits Coalition in attendance for supporting TCHC and the community to work together. Now, it is with great excitement for me to finally introduce the Tridel team. I would like to introduce you to Andrew DelZotto, who is part of the family who started and runs Tridel. We welcome Andrew to the Regent Park community, and maybe he could volunteer his time with Regent Park Focus to make more use of his undergrad degree in film.
Thank you, Fatheha, and the whole TCHC group in the Regent Park community for having us here tonight. We are honored and excited to complete the final phases in this neighborhood. As you know, I'm Andrew DelZotto. My cousin Andrea, who you might have met in the past, couldn't join us today, but I assure you, other than the difference between an A and a W, nothing else is going to change. That's because when our grandfather immigrated to Canada from Italy many decades ago, as a stonemason, he instilled core values in our family that we still live by today. And these core values make up the DNA of my other family at Tridel. When I was growing up, I would sit with my dad while he'd redesign floor plans with a red felt tip pen on tracing paper. There were no computers back then. And I'd spend my Sundays driving around Toronto with him, looking at the progress made on the different Tridel communities. So over 8 decades, when my grandfather built his first, since my grandfather built his first home, Tridel's built a solid reputation as a leader in the creation and construction of innovative, amenity-rich, quality residential condominium communities for each of our valued customers. To date, we are responsible for producing over 87,000 homes. We are an award-winning team whose core values are intrinsic to everything we do. Family values, safety, quality, innovation, integrity, and teamwork are at the foundation of every community we build. At Tridel, we believe in more than just bricks and mortar. We believe in building community that connects us to each other, to our surroundings, and to our planet. Decades ago, a condominium amenity would be a party room or a gym. Now we extend these amenities beyond the building so that they can be used by all, such as parks, hops, and retail that will benefit and complete a cohesive neighborhood. It's about investing in people that live in the community and adding to an already vibrant neighborhood. This includes ensuring safety is and will always be a top priority, not only during the construction process on the job site, but in the way we design the buildings to enhance safety once the community is complete. We are a family-based company, and community is what we do. Our WISE strategy guides us how we do business, aligning our commitment to creating beautiful homes, to fostering a best place to work environment for our employees, driving industry change and innovation, giving back to society and community, and finally, our efforts in sustainability. Our initiatives transcend all 4 of these pillars. One example is our Built for Respect initiative. As a community developer for over 85 years, it's our responsibility to take an active role to eliminate racism while advancing anti-racist initiatives. Our mandate focuses on making our workplace more inclusive and encourages those in our industry to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in our organization. We have partnered with our trades, consultants, customers, and industry associations like ResCon to proactively eliminate racism and extend our support of anti-racism in our workplace, our communities, in the construction industry and beyond. We have a deep commitment to and respect for the history and cultures in the Regent Park community. Working together, we will ensure that the final phases are completed in ways that foster inclusion and social cohesion. Our vision for Regent Park. Our Tridel promise, Built for Life, stands for the quality that we deliver. It also stands for the attention that we put towards the people and families that are actually living in the communities we build. You have a vision for your new home and community, one that is inclusive, safe, high quality, with fair decision-making processes, and a respect for who you are. We are committed to working with you every step of the way to listen to your ideas and ensure your voice is heard. Because like you, we believe that Regent Park is a place where everyone who lives here feels they belong. I'm going to hand it over to Danielle from the Tridel team now.
Thank you, Andrew. You certainly had big heels to fill tonight for Andrea, and that was an absolutely perfect kickoff. As the team lead at Tridel for the Community Economic Development and Social Responsibility, I'm absolutely thrilled to be with you all again after our original community presentation some time ago. The incredible work done already by the community, Toronto Community Housing, and our friends at Daniels is something that I deeply admire. And when I had the opportunity to be part of the Tridel team for your community, well, you had me at where everyone belongs. And belonging is such a simple word, but I don't understand why it seems so hard to achieve sometimes. And as community builders, and not just builders of projects or units, and as with family at the core of all we do, as you heard from Andrew, we believe we have a responsibility to contribute to work with our communities where we build to do our part to help support social inclusion and cohesion, to reduce social isolation and other issues we see happening in the world around us. Which leads me to say again, I never cease to be impressed by the community spirit and vision of Regent Park, because the 4 core elements from the social development plan parallels many of the issues we are passionate about at Tridel and that are embedded in our core values, like safety. Now that's a small word for a big and very important core element. And at Tridel, it is top of mind for every employee and reflects our core value of safety never compromised. Safety, as Andrew mentioned, can be how we make sure the community is safe while we build, but it also reflects how we ensure psychological safety like mental health and well-being. What you identified in the safety action plan is critical to what we will accomplish together, design safety right into the community spaces. And of course, community engagement plays an important role because safety can be something we can all take part and contribute to. Employment. In any community, we need to help create sustainable economic wealth building so people can earn a living, meaningful wage and thrive. You will hear from my teammates shortly about some of the programs like BOLT we have suggested that may help support your vision for that. And spaces to interact. I absolutely love this one. And it may sound odd, but many projects and communities don't include spaces for people to gather or have accidental collisions and spontaneous moments, or they're not necessarily prioritized for the community. We appreciated that focus as part of the social development plan, and we look forward to working with you to design in these important spaces. And my teammate Bryan is going to speak to you on that more. Access to information is a major cornerstone to make sure everyone can be engaged and involved. And to us, communication is more than just a one-way push of information. Good communication, and I wish we could all be together to have two-way, is two-way, relevant, and clear. Offered through many channels like in person, online, or in multiple languages. And Maggie's going to tell you more about our dedicated communications team at Tridel. We have listened and shared our ideas on how we could support these 4 core elements of the social development plan. And we also reflected on other aspects and key principles that were included. And our key commitments are that we look forward to defining further with you, such as community decision-making, where we work with you every step of the way, and pathways to employment. Whether you're a youth looking for a co-op job or a pre-retiree that has knowledge and wisdom and expertise to share, we believe there should be multiple pathways for everyone in the community. Long-term community building is, we believe, even once we're done with the bricks and mortar side, is that there should be a sustainable social infrastructure that is beyond the build. And of course, community benefits, which I know we're all excited to hear about, where we have a transparent, and as Andrea always says, what is measured gets done, accountable and engaged community process. And last slide, please. Despite everything I just talked about, or any of the ideas or plans you're going to hear tonight, we know we have yet to hear the most important voice, which is yours. And before we determine any direction. And tonight has finally arrived, and we're also thrilled. And so we're looking forward to get started. I'd like to now turn it over to Felicia. Felicia?
Thank you very much, Danielle.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Andrew. So we're glad that Tridel understand the importance of working together as family, friends, and partners and community. I'd like to introduce Bryan Sherwood, but just shortly before I do so, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Kristyn Wong-Tam is on the line. Do you want to go ahead?
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I do apologize for joining the meeting late. I don't want to interrupt because I think we're getting to a really good place in the discussion, especially as it pertains to the planning context and the urban design elements of phases 4 and 5. But I did want to say hello, everyone. It's Kristyn Wong-Tam, local city councillor, of course. I just want to also recognize that, you know, like everything else, I wish that we were together, but I think everyone is aware that although the pandemic is still amongst us, the silver lining is I think, relatively within sight, just because we're now talking about vaccines and reopening the economy. So I just want to say a few words because I want to take this moment to recognize that it has been a very difficult time, starting off with the fact that we've had those tragic events that have really just shifted the national conversation. First, when it comes to the learning and the recent discovery of the 215 Indigenous young children, I want to recognize that moment and acknowledge how difficult it is for many in the community, especially of those of Indigenous background. The work around reconciliation is not going to be done in one generation because it's actually taken many generations for us to even arrive to this point. So I recognize that I myself as a settler and many of us who are here as settlers will have to double and triple our resolve to address the reconciliation work that's ahead of us. The other thing that I wanted to just spend a moment to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about phases 4 and 5. Earlier this week, we all learned about the horrific event that took place in London, Ontario. And I don't necessarily want to belabor the point because I know that it's incredibly painful, especially for many in the Regent Park community. I do want to acknowledge that, you know, Islamophobia and politicians denouncing Islamophobia, words and condolences seem to be falling short, especially when we need to see action. This is obviously not the first incident of a horrific crime committed against the Muslim community, but it is actually one of many. And there are probably daily interactions that you and your family may be having where it may not be an outright act of violence, but the violence you experience is nevertheless still real. Whether it's microaggressions or racism, we have seen a rising pattern in a very alarming rate of hate in this country, and it is happening literally across the land. I just came from City Council, which is why I'm late, and I'm going to share with you that we did pass some new motions at City Council that specifically talked about how we're going to do better and address Islamophobia. One of the first things we're doing is calling on the federal government to hold a national conversation with the Muslim community, a national summit with the Muslim community to address Islamophobia and to work to a better, more racially harmonious space. We're also going to try to do everything we can to reinvigorate the Muslim Fellowship at City Hall, and that means long-term funding. I've also called upon City Council, and the vote passed unanimously, to denounce the Quebec Charter of Values, which I believe is inherently biased towards the Muslim community and people of faith, and in particular, women of the Muslim community, should they choose to wear the hijab or any other type of head covering. We also need to denounce white supremacy. I don't think we can talk about Islamophobia without talking about the infrastructure that supports and empowers white supremacy. And at the foundational level, we need to start dismantling those structures. These are just some of the things that City Council did today. And I wanted to share that with you because I know that it is so much more important for us to work towards actions. And these actions are not conclusive, but they are just the beginning. And hopefully it represents much more to come, including calling on the federal government to take on online hate. They must do more to address online hate and the distribution of hate material. Oftentimes that is the breeding ground of discrimination and hatred, and the breeding ground for Islamophobia. I'll look forward to joining all of you if you can make it out for tonight. There obviously is going to be a vigil. Thank you to the Regent Park Mothers of Peace who are organizing this. We will gather safely. Make sure you wear your mask. But even if it's for a short moment, I want us to spend a little bit of time together, just sort of virtually, even though we're in the physical space, sort of thinking about each other. Finally, I'm just going to turn my remarks now to the other business at hand. TCHC, Regent Park, Revitalization phases 4 and 5. I have not formally introduced and welcomed Tridel to the community, not yet until now. So this is our very first opportunity as a community, as the city, where we get to formally say, welcome to Regent Park, to all the Tridel team and the Tridel family. Tridel, you will learn, and I know we've had some good conversations, that Regent Park is not just one of the most diverse and dynamic communities in the city. It is actually one of the most diverse and dynamic communities and neighborhoods in the country. We recognize that the stakes are high. Phases 4 and 5 represent the very last leg of work, physical building left in Regent Park, but it also represents our hope. And I think that, you know, the conversation that began regarding revitalization that was championed by the Regent Park community has only gotten stronger throughout the years as the community members have gotten more organized. Daniel's and the partners that set us off to this journey, we thank them for all that they've done. But we also welcome Tridel as we turn the chapter with them. Tridel executives and I have spoken on several occasions. They are aware that I am expecting from them the absolute best when it comes to planning context, the absolute best when it comes to architectural excellence and urban design, the materials to be used, the quality of construction and the relationship with the community has got to be top notch, and we will not accept anything less. One final thing I will leave you on is that if it hasn't been touched upon, I want you to hear it from myself as the local councillor. I have specifically asked City Council, as well as Toronto Community Housing, as well as Tridel, to do everything they can to build more affordable housing in phases 4 and 5. And that was my commitment to the community when I first got elected and became your new councillor, is how can we leverage the assets that we have so we can get more community benefits, more jobs, more wealth driven to the community. And I'm happy to say that not only has City Council endorsed that motion, which is to explore how we can do more and not replace just like for like, meaning that, you know, if there's X number of RGI units, you only get this equal amount of number coming out of the same equation. That is not good enough, not in 2021 and not in the middle of a housing crisis. So I'm very pleased to say that TCHC, Tridel, the City of Toronto, and I'm going to be looking to our provincial and federal partners for some support, because we have to do this work together. And so I expect in phases 4 and 5, not only will there be more affordable housing and more RGI units, we are going to have more excellent architecture. And then this is the final point. I want Tridel, and I've said it to them, and I'm going to say it to you tonight. I want and need Tridel and TCHC to develop the community assets first. So therefore, we don't wait another 13 years for the library or the multi-faith, multi-purpose facility or the community hub. I need them to build it next, and I need them to build it as quickly as possible so you can get into those facilities and start using them. So therefore, it's not at the end of the phases 4 and 5. It should be as soon as possible, as it is feasible. It should not be without any delay. So thank you very much, everyone. It's so good to be here. I'm going to draw my remarks to a close and also just recognize that Lula Hassan, who is my community advisor for Regent Park, is also on this call. And I thank her for always representing myself and our office in all of the meetings and dealings here. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kristyn Wong-Tam, for your support and leadership to continue making our city, and especially Regent Park, a great and welcoming community. Thank you. I just want to reiterate that there is a language, that there is interpreters on the line, as well as for whoever needs interpretation, okay? Just want to reiterate that. So with further ado, I'm going to go ahead. I'd like to introduce Bryan Sherwood, who is a Senior Manager for Development Planning at Tridel. I'm sure Bryan will make use of his professional athletic coaching skills to help keep us thriving for community growth and excellence. Go ahead, Bryan.
Thank you, Felicia, and thank you, Councillor Wong-Tam, for that warm welcome. We really appreciate it. And most importantly, thank you, Regent Park community, for allowing us to be here and sharing this space with you and trusting us with the hope for this final phase of the revitalization. The center of our planning and design program is community engagement and working with local residents to see your vision and aspirations for the final phases of the Regent Park revitalization come to life. That's why each design consultant that we hire must provide an engagement plan that starts with hearing from you directly first, before putting pen to paper. We are also instructing them to ensure the engagement process focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion to ensure that the diversity of Regent Park is reflected in everything that we produce in these final phases. Tridel prides itself on leading the development industry in constructing sustainable buildings and customer care and relations and partnering with TCHC on revitalization communities. And while we know the importance of leading, we also see the need to learn from the successes of others. We have seen how rezoning efforts during the first phases of the revitalization have produced amazing community benefits for residents, including additional affordable rental housing and the Regent Park athletic grounds. Working with community and the various levels of government and the local planning office who are in attendance for today's meeting and other agencies, we hope to take a few of the lessons from the previous phases in Regent Park and pursue a rezoning amendment with the intention to seek additional density for a potential new library, as the councillor mentioned, for the additional affordable housing and additional market housing, and also a 1,000 square meter community space, which we've heard from both TCHC and residents is an important element that the community wants to see brought into phases 4 and 5 that isn't a part of the existing plan. We're hoping to use our resources as well as support and direction from the community to increase the potential of what we see right now in the plan for phases 4 and 5. We understand the importance and hope that the community has in this final phase. And it's our hope to learn from you as we revision the opportunities for the final phases of the revitalization together. With that, I want to turn things back to Walied.
Thank you so much, Bryan, for those lovely remarks with regards to sort of the work that we are going to be shaping together when it comes to the future of our neighborhoods, especially when it comes to the community priorities that were identified in the community priorities report, and equally as important to the physical planning and design for phase 4 and 5 are the community benefits which Tridel is bringing to the table. This builds on the many successes for revitalization, and I just want to introduce Maggie Hall, who's I heard an avid outdoors person when not hanging out with her cat, I believe Sophie. And I believe Maggie works at Tridel as their community relations and social responsibility specialist. So Maggie, please welcome.
Thank you, Walied. And yes, I think my cat is somewhere seeking some refuge from the heat. So thank you again for having us here. And it's such an honor to be with so many people. I think I see almost 150. So for those of you who were able to attend the community meeting back in October of 2019, you would have heard about the importance of community building to Tridel. Yes, it's about building beautiful homes for you and your families, but it's about building strong, healthy, and resilient communities too. So when Andrew spoke about our history earlier and our commitment to going beyond the bricks and mortar of the physical, like the roads, buildings, and the parks. It's to contribute to a real transformational change. So that's why our team, and Andrea, if you can go to the next slide, please. And that's why our team is so excited about the number you see on the screen. This is providing real resources to driving this kind of change. This $26.8 million for community benefits is about creating jobs and opportunities, which we heard loud and clear that this is a very clear focus. And it's also about training and education to support your journey of going to school or even going back to school. It's also taking a look at the core elements of your social development plan and supporting many of the priorities in there too. And then you see this question mark. Well, that's for you to decide. So through the year-long engagement process that I know the Community Benefits Coalition will discuss later in this presentation, we want to have as many stakeholders who want to be involved in shaping the future of Regent Park as possible. Next slide, please, Andrea. Thank you. So a big component of community benefits in Regent Park will be driven by a commitment and, more importantly, a process to be accountable, transparent, and with lots of opportunities for participation and engagement. Dedicated community communications team working closely with TCHC and the Community Benefits Coalition and other stakeholders will make sure that communication is open and often. We'll be tracking and monitoring our progress during the entire revitalization, giving you opportunities to give feedback on what's working and what we could do better on. And then finally, reporting on that progress to the community so you know what's happening. And know that our community economic development team and the whole of Tridel is committed to this process, and we're really excited to get to work. So speaking of work in the community and ways to get engaged, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Asal to talk about Tridel Community Works.
Thank you, Maggie. And thank you everyone again for having us here tonight. Echoing my colleagues, we are very excited to be the developer partners for phases 4 and 5 and excited to get to work. So as you've heard and we'll hear more about, there will be a year-long engagement process. But in the meantime, we have created a dedicated resource, Tridel Community Works, for residents to connect into employment and training opportunities. Those are both in construction and non-construction related fields within Tridel, our group of companies, our network more broadly. It also includes job readiness resources, information on career exploration, opportunity events, and so much more. So I do encourage everyone to check out Tridel Community Works. You can see the web link on the slide there. For youth who are, for youth 29 and under who are interested in a career in construction, we do have a dedicated partner in Bold. And I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Raly, who's going to share a little bit about Bold, the foundation, and some of the work that they do.
Thanks so much, Asal, and good evening, everyone. I'm really honored to have the opportunity to briefly introduce myself, my team, and the Bold Foundation. And we're really incredibly fortunate to have Tridel as our founding sponsor. And it's really that industry leadership that makes us unique and is the secret behind our success. So this is our small but very, very mighty team that you will have a chance to connect with and that you might see in the community. So I'm Raly Chakarova. I'm the executive director. Stephanie is our programs coordinator. And the two newest members of our team are Alasis, who is leading our employment and placement work, and will be working closely with both Steph and Asal, and Crystal, who is leading our outreach and communications initiatives. And the Bold mandate is simple and straightforward. We help connect under-resourced youth, 29 and under, in the GTA to meaningful and rewarding careers in construction, be they in the skilled trades or in other industry professions. And we work with our community and industry partners to provide the necessary supports that lead up to that employment as well. And we deliver on that on 3 main pillars. First, it's raising awareness, because you can't dream it if you don't know about it. And we know there's a real lack of awareness and understanding of the diversity of careers available in the construction industries, while there are so many opportunities available. Next, we focus on meaningful and immersive career exploration programs, because youth deserve to better understand what they're getting into, what the culture and career options on site actually look like before they pursue training and education towards it. And the 2 programs that we do offer, our Day of Discovery and our Job Shadowing, are quite unique in the GTA. And because we don't believe that lack of finances should be a barrier to education, we also provide support for both skill training and post-secondary education related to construction careers. So with all that, we look forward to meeting you and working together in the coming months and in the coming years. And until then, please do not hesitate to follow us on social or connect with us over email to find out more about the opportunities we offer. And with that, I'll pass it back to Danielle.
Thank you, Raly. And I want to thank Team Tridel. You did an amazing job. And to the community for having us here tonight. And like Bryan said, for giving us the privilege of the amazing experience of working together with you. Before we turn it over to your RPNA Community Benefits Coalition, I wanted to take an opportunity to let you know quickly what's happening next. We have the procurement of a design team, so a watch for announcements that'll be coming to the community. Multi-channel, of course. The Regent Park focused media videos. Now, I hope you enjoyed the videos between Peter and Andrea and that were created in part with Kevin Cisse, a resident, and Adonis. We appreciate the work that Regent Park focused media, the work that they do, and we certainly look forward and can't wait for the videos on the community that are coming soon. There's going to be a summer newsletter in July. And that's produced by Community Toronto Housing, the one that you always receive. And we're looking forward to the future rezoning application that we're looking for in the winter. And of course, regular community engagement through communication and whatever activities we're able to do considering COVID. And last but not least, of course, the one-year engagement process that we're all really excited about getting started on the community benefits planning. And with that, I think it's a wonderful time to turn it back to Walied and the RPNA Community Benefits Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for articulating various opportunities for engagement. But thank you, Maggie, Asal, Raly, and Danielle again for that. And we look forward to opportunities where we'll collaborate in creating more opportunities for folks in our community. Speaking of getting more involved, I want to introduce some of the other members of our Regent Park Community Benefits Coalition to talk a little bit more about how to get involved, especially when it pertains to the community benefits process in Regent Park. So let's see if we have this slide. I'm going to speak to the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group, which is an important group that is going to help develop the mandate of this partnership when it comes to community benefits. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, so the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group is going to be created. And right now there is conversations between all parties to ensure that community members have not just an engagement strategy, but also an accountability structure where also decisions are made. And we're basically negotiating the ways people can get involved. And we want to hear from you. We're recruiting members, especially through the Community Benefits Coalition, where we'll be seeking input from residents on how this Community Benefits Oversight Working Group can deliver on the commitments made to our community by our elected representatives, by our developer partners, and also our Toronto Community Housing, the subsidiary of the city. Next slide. So during this one-year process, we will have engagement, and I want to invite Deanie Peters to speak to that engagement process, especially through the learning series, which is an opportunity for folks to build a capacity and knowledge to get more involved in community work so that you are more familiar with the work that has happened, but also the work that is ahead of us. So Deanie, are you ready for us?
Hi, yes, I am. Yeah, the Community Benefit Coalition will be working with the Toronto Community Benefit Network to provide learning opportunities for residents to be fully equipped with sound knowledge and understanding about community benefits. to prepare you with the expertise to fully participate with confidence in the one-year consultation process. And we invite you to please let us know by the end of the meeting if you are interested in joining the coalition and or for signing up for our learning series. And that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dini, for speaking to that. So as part of that process of educating and engaging with our neighbors and residents across Regent Park, we are also going to we're committed to creating a decision-making body where community members can give their input and help make decisions. And then we're going to jointly work on a plan, a community benefits plan that is informed by residents, that is supported by all stakeholders so that we are successful. And most importantly is what comes next, how we're going to be tracking the implementation and accountability that is necessary. And that's by creating the structures to ensure that we are able to implement our plan, and most importantly, structures to ensure that we have the accountability. And one of those structures is through a community benefits agreement, so that we are able to not just collaborate, but work with all stakeholders, not just residents, but other parties to ensure that we have a successful community benefits agreement that achieves a social cohesion. So next, I want to invite our co-chair. Next slide. I want to invite our co-chair of the Regent Park Neighborhood Association, Marlene, to speak to how you can get involved with the great work that's led by residents in our community who've been part of this process since 2018, but way before that in other phases of the revitalization. So Marlene, welcome.
Thanks, Waleed. From Lloyd Pike and myself as co-chairs of the Neighborhood Association, and along with the CBC, we'd like to thank the Tridel team for their excellent presentation and finally formally welcome them to our community, and know that we really are very much looking forward to working with you to ensure that we have a successful revitalization process for the residents of Regent Park, and a success that we can celebrate with our city, with our country, and the rest of the world now that we've begun to share our story with the new UN pavilion that's coming to Regent Park. To our community members here tonight, it is vitally important that you get involved. Take down these emails that you see, get in touch, join the Community Benefits Coalition, learn about this transformative work that's led to the Community Benefits Agreement so that you have the tools to participate in the upcoming one-year-long process. Advocate for the possible enhancements to the CBC. Learn more about and be part of the CBC Oversight Working Group. And then help us educate our neighbors by joining the learning series that you just heard about, so you can influence the Community Benefits Agreement. As residents, we know what we need for our neighborhood. So add your voice, bring your ideas, and take part in the shaping of this incredibly dynamic community. And please remember this, your Regent Park Neighborhood Association is the only truly independent grassroots advocacy organization in Regent Park. It's where it began. It's where the Community Benefits Coalition began. This is where we all stand proudly together in the spirit of the SDP, TCHC residents and market residents alike. So please join your RPNA. As a community, we're healthier, we're happier, and we're stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene, for that lovely and eloquent remarks on behalf of the Regent Park Neighborhood Association. Felicia?
Thank you, Waleed. I appreciate it. So thank you, TCHC, Tridel, and RPNA. CBC, and elected official Suze Morrison and Councillor Kristyn Wong-Tam for being present. We will now have some question and answer as part of our meeting. We've received some questions before and during the meeting. If you have any question, please enter your question into the Q&A feature in Zoom. It's located at the bottom. To answer your question, we'll have Peter and Joyce from TCHC, Danielle and Bryan from Tridel, Alison Platt from Danielle's, Ismail and Marlene from Community Benefits Coalition. Fatheha, Walied and I take turns asking questions, and our first question will be submitted before the meeting. Will be, just one moment, please. Okay, so our first question is to Joyce Ho from TCHC. What sustainability features will be incorporated into the next phases? Will the building pursue Toronto Green Standard LEED certification?
Thank you for the question. Sustainability is a priority for TCHC and Tridel, and in other revitalizations, TCHC has prioritized sustainability objectives that have gone above and beyond the city's green standard requirements. This will be further investigated in the master planning process for phases 4 and 5 in Regent Park, which will be taking place in the second half of this year. Our master plan and urban design team will have a sustainability consultant who will look to address needs and requirements through this master planning process. Over back to you.
So the question is, one moment. So the individual is asking, repeat the live answer here, please, about market resident communication, which has been virtually absent so far. So basically, this individual would like to know more about the market residents and how the communication, I guess the communication between TCHC, Tridel, and the residents, and also the coalition.
All right, okay, now I understand the question. I'm wondering if Will Mendes is available. I don't want to put you on the spot, Will, but I may ask you to respond to the question of communication in the community and how we are reaching out to TCHC residents and others in the surrounding community.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Will Mendes. Sorry to jump in on the Q&A. So newsletters and information are sent to the condo management or property management companies within the market and condo buildings. It is through each building's communication mechanism that information can be distributed. But more importantly, if anyone is interested in receiving updates from Toronto Community Housing, please email talkregentpark@torontohousing.ca. We'll have that information on the PowerPoint slide momentarily. In addition, there's other ways of getting information, which is through newsletters that are also produced through the Social Development Plan table, as well as getting in contact with the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association, which you can also email rpna.info@gmail.com. And even more importantly is to strengthen our community's reach in terms of communication and collaboration. The Regent Park Neighborhood Association is going to be doing a membership drive to get representatives from both TCHC buildings as well as the condo market buildings, so that way we can continue to work together, share information, and have robust communication throughout the Regent Park community.
If I can add on, Will, as well, the Social Development Plan communication table is working on centralizing communication across the neighborhood. Currently, there is the regentparksocial.org, and there's also in development a community app that will integrate all the communication pieces. Please connect to regentparksocial.org, where some of the communication pieces around employment, around the social development plan will be found.
I'm gonna be directing the next question to Joyce. So a resident is saying that they live in market rents unit in one of the old buildings. When are they going to be offered the opportunity to move to a newer building?
Thanks, Fatheha. The master planning process, which we are beginning to undertake now, and for the rest of 2021, will inform the overall phasing plan and timing for relocation. We are in the process of hiring an urban designer who will be working on the master plan with Tridel, TCHC, and the community in the next half of this year. Once this work is in progress, we will have a better sense on timing and will host an information session about this very specific topic to answer all of your questions. Thank you. Back to you, Fatheha.
Great, thank you. There's another question in the chat for Peter. Can you please elaborate on how the revitalization plan focuses on the cultural diversity of the community, both existing and new? They noticed that many stores are going into the condo tower podiums, such as Wendy's, Subway, Tim Hortons, and the Wine Rack, and more recently Raba and LeBeau. Where are the ethno-cultural restaurants that represent the diverse community, and more importantly, stores that are affordable to all Regent Park members and not just the condo owners? For example, LeBeau is not affordable for many folks in the community. What is the process for selecting stores and shops, and how are community members consulted? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I guess I would start by saying fair comment. I mean, I think that is a reasonable criticism of what is been done and what has happened in Regent to date. But I'd also note that at the beginning of the revitalization process, there was no retail in Regent Park. And one of the great challenges that TCHC faced and Daniel's faced at the beginning of the revitalization process was trying to get some retail, any retail to come in, and get good retail to come into Regent Park. And so what is there in the first 3 phases is largely a reflection of that effort to get things started, to make sure that there was a grocery store, to make sure there was a bank, to make sure that Dundas Street was beginning to come alive again as a thoroughfare with a retail presence. What we do now, how we move forward, what we do on, let's say, on the Gerrard Street frontage, is an opportunity for us to rethink and reset and work on the success of the work to date and try to make some adjustments so that we can make sure that the next round of retail, the next shops along that phase, better reflect the needs and priorities of the community. And I think that's going to be a really important and interesting part of the conversation that we're going to have with residents over the next 6 months and year as we kind of plan what that is going to look like, and as we design that retail, and we try to make specific spaces available for smaller shops, community-based shops, and work very closely with the community in the planning of the next 2 phases. So I think it's a really good question, and I hope the person who asked that question stays involved in the process to make sure that continually gets addressed through the planning for the final 2 phases. So thank you. I'll turn it back.
Thank you, Peter. So one more question. I think this is for you, Tridel. Does Tridel plan on addressing Regent Park's food insecurity issues within its new phase planning? If so, will you be working with community organizations that tackle food insecurity? Has food-related programming such as food-related programming within the Regent Park community?
Fatheha, thank you so much. And to Andrea, I think, who's asked that question. And I think it's a wonderful one. Certainly a sense of a thriving community is and belonging is where people have their basic nutritional needs met. And in a word, I can tell you, yes. And absolutely, Tridel will be involved. I do know there is already an existing network of agencies that are actively involved in the community. And I'm going to say, as with this question and many others, Tridel, we need to listen and learn first. And we will rely on RPNA, and the Community Benefits Coalition and everyone who we meet to inform how we can best go about that and how we can bring our knowledge and expertise and resources to bear on this very, very important issue, very fundamental issue And so sorry, I could go on for a while about this one. It's close to my heart, but absolutely. We'll work with the agencies and identify new ones together with you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that answer. I guess we'll go with our first question. And this question is to Tridel at Bryan Sherwood. I'd like to know what the plans are regarding the trees which currently stand in Regent Park and will be affected by phases 4 and 5. I understand many of these trees were planted in the 1940s and 50s, and a number of them were felled during preceding phases. Are TCHC and the developer working to ensure as many of these trees as possible are spared?
So the short answer to that question is yes. We're going to do everything we can to spare as many trees as possible. The process starts with us hiring an arborist who goes onto the site. They look at the development plan that we've produced, and they review the plan, and they look at the trees and where the trees' roots are and how they would be impacted by whatever infrastructure is going to be located near them. And they notate which trees need to be saved and can be saved because they won't be impacted by streets and buildings. And they know which trees cannot be saved. During their investigation, they also know which trees are invasive species, which trees are damaged and diseased, and they asked us to remove those as well. Now, for Tridel, managing trees and the tree canopy in urban environments is very important to us. And we do our best to maintain as many as possible. However, with revitalization such as this one, the removal of old growth trees embedded within communities is necessary. It's something that has to happen for us to progress with this development. But what we can guarantee is that we will remove as few as possible. And for the ones that we do remove, we will replace it with new trees. And for the ones that we cannot replace with new trees, we will be making a contribution to the city's urban forestry department to plant trees somewhere else in Toronto or in nearby. But our intention is to replant 2 trees for each tree that we remove.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that answer, Bryan. Really appreciate that. Our next question goes to the coalition. So our friends Ismail, Marlene, this is a question. Someone's said, you've asked for people to join the engagement committee. So I would like to understand how often will the group meet? For example, weekly, for an hour? Like, what's the duration for meetings?
Yeah, so currently we are working on developing the terms of reference for that meeting, for that group. And most likely our meetings are 2 hours. And we usually schedule meetings around the best time that works for most community members. Typically, that would be during the evenings from 5 o'clock. But we're still working out the terms of reference. If you have some recommendations and you have interest, please connect with us, and we'll make sure that those who are involved, the timing works for them.
Excellent. Thank you, Ismail. So the next question is it's going to go towards Tridel. Tridel, our friends, one of our residents is interested to hear about 2 to 3 examples about the recent developments that are currently working well in supporting the goal of community improvement or enrichment. So please speak to your experience supporting the community in other rewrites.
Jen, I'm going to say you made it hard for me because it's only 3. And Bryan and I are both going to fight for this one, I think, and maybe we can both go. The first one that comes to mind is a community that's close to my heart because I ended up living there. And we, Tridel had, we were building next to a school, and the students, the parents, the neighbors, it was one of those things about this disruptive development. How is this going to go, and how are the kids going to have a good education? And, you know, it was interesting because the problem became an opportunity for us. And our friends in sales and marketing, led by Jim Ritchie. He created an environment, for example, in the sales center that became a education tool for the career development. And we partnered with a local high school to use the knowledge and wisdom and expertise of members of Tridel, whether it be web design or marketing or interior design. We had hundreds of careers and partnered with them throughout the build to be able to excite and inspire students to their future careers. So that's really one where we, I think we always look for opportunities regardless of the challenge to build stronger, better communities. Another one I would say that we're really quite proud of is we invest in micro enterprise in communities, and we had worked in under a similar community economic development agreement with residents who were interested not in construction, but in obtaining sort of a career in the culinary arts. So we supported them in their George Brown education. From that, when they graduated, we helped them get a startup out of their community center. And fast forward a couple years later, we are using them to procure our closing gifts. They're doing work for our TPS. They have, the culinary crew has done amazing things. And now I think are up to a couple number of employees added to their sort of group. And we're just so thrilled and excited about those opportunities. And the last one I would say is employment in general. Tridel Delterra is very passionate about giving opportunities. And there's an expression that actually Andrea uses, talent is universal, but opportunities are not. And I think you probably heard her refer to that in her original community presentation. And when we look at that, we are very passionate about bringing through programs like GOLD and a range of other entities, jobs, meaningful living wage jobs to the community. And we are on track with our other revitalization communities in delivering and exceeding in those targets. So Bryan, sorry, I hope that didn't take up too much time, but yeah, I could go on for a while.
No, you took all the time. You took all the time. You haven't left any time for me. But I'm going to take some time anyways, because this is also a favorite topic of mine. There's one, I have two examples. I'm going to be quick. There's one really cool example, and both of them, actually both my examples are art related. The first one relates to a community that we were working with that's downtown. And as a part of the construction process, we have to put up construction hoarding to kind of protect the site and protect people from getting injured accessing the site while construction starts. And the city of Toronto came up with the idea of ensuring developers put artwork on all of their construction hoarding. And they have a roster of artists that you can use and partner with, or you can just put on arts that's in their catalog. But we decided to work with local residents and a professional artist to produce a unique piece of artwork that we put up on our hoarding for this site. And what was really cool is that we worked with the community members and the artists to have a training program before the art was actually put up. So we paid the artists to teach youth within the community how to do graffiti art. And it actually started with them going into the units that were vacated prior to demolition and just painting all the walls in the vacant units, different colors, different art pieces were put up inside the vacant units. And that was the building blocks of learning how to do a graffiti art piece. And at the end of the day, they did produce a piece of art that was just amazing for residents to claim ownership of, as well as these residents learned new skills and started new passions towards doing artwork that maybe wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this opportunity. And it was really cool when the buildings were demolished, because you got to see the inside of these art canvases, let's put it that way, and you were able to see the mosaic of the education process for these students as they were painting the inside of these recently demolished units. And then the last example I would say is a community that we're working with, TCHC, in the north end of the city. And there, this community had a really tough relocation process because the entire community was moved out at one time. And as a part of the construction process, developers have to provide an arts contribution. And for this art contribution, working with the councillor, the decision was made to select an artist using the community. So the community was responsible for choosing the artist, and then working with the artists that they chose to do artwork. And this community in particular is predominantly Black of Caribbean descent. And the artist chose to do a mural that represents Black excellence. And it's a beautiful piece. And it's going to take the images and experiences and struggles of the community, the people that live there, and it's going to put them in a mural. And what was great is that the community chose the artist. The artist is also Black of Caribbean descent, and the residents were able to be a part of a really big decision. And then, you know, for as long as that artwork stays up, see directly how they've been connected to that community. So that was a really important opportunity of connecting communities and empowering communities through art and also through revitalization. Sorry, that took longer than I wanted it to.
No worries, Brian. I try to give you as much time as I could, my friend. But thanks for that response on behalf of Tridel. The next question comes from the community, and it's, I think, a question that's close to a lot of people's heart, wondering if there's opportunities to learn more about affordable home ownership. And we would like to hear Tridel's thoughts on this opportunity. So for example, first-time home buyers, families who are first generations interested in learning more. This is about home ownership, a pathway to home ownership. And I just want to acknowledge that Member of Parliament, Provincially Suze Morrison, spoke about that in the beginning of this meeting. So it's a theme that we'll hopefully address today.
Yeah. I'll jump on that one too. I guess I'll start by saying, as a company, Tridel has a history of supporting affordable homeownership opportunities. We've, in our previous revitalizations with Toronto Community Housing, have provided several units that residents who were living in those communities were able to, during the revitalization process, purchase their own unit in a condo building. So that way, we see a lot of multi-generational families in the communities that we work in. And there's instances where parents are living in the replacement housing, and their children are living in Tridel condos that are just down the street. And that's a very rare opportunity, but we're very excited and happy to give communities the opportunity to do that. So we have a long history of supporting affordable homeownership programs. What I would say is where it sits with me, it's a very personal question for me, because being somebody who comes from an immigrant family, I see these affordable homeownership programs that are generally supported through second mortgages that are they have some restrictions in terms of, or it's not restrictions, but have some conditions on how you pay them back depending on how long you live in the unit. I see those second mortgages as an opportunity for recent immigrants like myself or first generation Canadians, as an opportunity to have a down payment on a house that somebody who has established residency and ownership in Toronto, or has family that has established ownership in Toronto, I see that second mortgage as an opportunity for someone who, like me, who didn't have that opportunity. So it gives you a bit of, it tries to level the playing field. And I think that's the important part of these affordable homeownership programs. And I think that's why Tridel does whatever it can to support them in our buildings. Not only do we support them in our revitalizations when we work with Toronto Community Housing, but we also provide development and construction services for an affordable home ownership nonprofit builder, Option for Homes. And we're their builder of choice. We build all of their buildings. We understand what's required to provide an affordable product for first-time home buyers, for young families, for singles, because today's housing market isn't really made for single purchasers. But we do what we can as a builder to make sure that the costs are attainable through those programs for that organization. And the same thing, when we work with Toronto Community Housing, we do what we can to ensure that we're providing units that are available for people to purchase through these programs when they're properly funded through the support of TCHC, the City of Toronto, and other levels of government.
Thank you very much, Bryan, for that. I appreciate it. So this is a question that was taken before the meeting. So, and it's directed towards Allison Pratt from Danielle's. I found there is a big space area at the corner of Gerrard Street and Parliament Street. Is there any planning for that area? If so, what will it look like? And how many years will it be developed and completed?
Hi, Allison Platt here from Daniel's. Happy to join you this evening. Thank you for having me. We're referring to that as Block 1 right now at the southeast corner of Parliament and Gerrard. We've made 2 appearances before the design review panel, and we do have a site plan application in that's currently being reviewed by the City of Toronto. Timing for development, we're hoping for a construction start sometime next year in 2022, and sales sometime after that. Dates have not yet been firmed up. I can tell you it's going to be developed as one condominium corporation with just over 600 units. At the south end, there's going to be a 25-story tower, and at the north end along Gerrard is a 10-story mid-rise. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. I appreciate that. There's a second part to that question, but you answered it, so that's fine. Okay, so the next question is from the Q&A. Wondering if there's opportunities to learn more about affordable home ownership, and would like to hear Tridel's thought on this opportunity for first-time home buyers, family who are first generation interested in more. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we had covered that. So I will move on to the next question. Will Tridel and TCHC sign a trilateral community benefit agreement with RPNA? And if not, why?
It's Peter Zimmerman. I'll respond to that question. So let me preface my remarks by first of all saying that TCHC began a process working with RPNA and signed the Regent Park Phase 4 and 5 Community Benefits Framework. And I think it was a really important document in that it established a process to ensure that there would be first of all, the maximum amount of community benefit was derived from the RFP process, and that the benefits would reflect the priorities of the community through the RFP process. It also established a process, the one-year process, what we've been talking about today, where the community would be involved in establishing the plan for the use of the community benefits package. And it also established that there would be an agreement, and that agreement would be a public document. And TCHC and the development partner, because we didn't know that Tridel would be selected at that time, would be held to account for the delivery of those community benefits. And one of the things that we were able to achieve through that process, negotiating with Tridel and working with the framework, is to set up a system whereby that those items that are agreed to in the community benefits agreement, the developer must deliver them. And if the event that they don't deliver on those promises, the money would come back into the community and could be used for other things. This is a landmark agreement. This is a landmark approach to delivering community benefits. The request that has come forward to examine the possibility of moving to something which is a tripartite agreement is something that we're looking at. It's something that we've entered into a conversation with the city about and getting some feedback from the city, because we are a part of the city. We are talking about to our legal team and exploring the possibility of whether or not that could occur. We've indicated that we've gotten negative feedback from the city. We've gotten negative feedback from our legal team, but we are still in conversation, and we are committed to having a community benefits agreement that is available to the community, that will secure the benefits the community wants, and we are held to account in the long term to make sure those benefits are delivered. That's the underlying commitment. Whether that gets secured through an agreement just between Tridel and TCHC that's public, or through some sort of a tripartite agreement, or there's some kind of tripartite declaration, that's to be determined. But we are working our way through, but the commitments are clear from both the developer and TCHC to make sure that those community benefits are delivered and they reflect the needs and interests of the Regent Park community. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to add something on this as well, if that's possible.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think in many cases, what we've learned in the, as I said, in the original history of why community became involved in this process, is that we are inspired by the work that has been done before. Some of the things we've learned from Daniels, some of the things we've learned from Toronto Community Housing, is that the values they bring onto the table are values of inclusivity, values of empowering residents to be part of the process. And what we've done through the Community Benefit Coalition is believe in those same values. We've taken to heart when someone tells us you're part of the decision-making, you're part of the process, we take that to heart. And we've proven case again and again that it's actually beneficial to include this community in the decision-making. And one of the most biggest ways you can include community in the decision-making is to see them as formal partners. And I hope in this case, that conversations and negotiations will allow for including community as partners, as formal partners in the process. Of course, as Peter had mentioned, there are challenges when it comes to what the city had said, what legal had said, but like before, you don't make history by just sticking to the status quo. I think true transformation happens when you explore a lot of benefits. And I feel confident that if we can make our case, and I feel confident that through conversations and diligent partnerships, this phase 4 and 5 would be truly collaborative. Thank you. And of course, if it's not, we can always go to the TCHC board like advocates. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. So just want to be mindful of time. It's currently 8 o'clock. I'm going to be asking one more question, and we'll end with closing remarks. So someone had asked the question regarding, will there be storage unit in the new phase of the units? I think that would go to, go ahead.
I'm assuming this is a question directed to the Toronto Community Housing part of the redevelopment. And I don't think we've made any final determination about what those units are going to look like. But I think it will be part of a consultation that we will embark on with the Regent Park community, because one of the things we want to know is what's working and what's not working, and how can we make the final 2 phases in the buildings in those final 2 phases best reflect the needs of people in the community. So I think the answer is nothing has been decided about the design of the buildings in the final 2 phases of Regent Park.
Thank you very much, Peter. So that was a great question and answer session that just took place. I appreciate all the question and the answer that was brought forward. For those questions that didn't get addressed during the meeting, please note that we will follow up with additional materials after the meeting, including answer to those questions. Now I'd like to introduce Gail Lynch, the co-chair of the SDP Employment and Economic Development Working Group, to give a brief update on the most recent report. Go ahead, Gail.
Good evening, everybody. Residents of Regent Park. My name is Gail Lynch. I'm a resident of Regent Park, a member of the RPNA, and most recently a new entrepreneur. I'm also co-chair of the Employment and Economic Development Working Group, along with Walied Khogali Ali, who's also a resident and an entrepreneur, and Paula Garcia, who's the Director of Community Development at Yonge Street Mission. Recently, our working group undertook a research project to help us understand what employment and economic development opportunities and gaps they are, what residents want to see. We asked this of employers, we asked this of residents, we asked this of entrepreneurs, the service providers, grassroots organizations, and governments. The slide that you're seeing shows the suggestions made by employers, made by residents, entrepreneurs, service providers, and grassroots organizations. So our ask is simply this of Tridel and also of the community, but my specific ask tonight is of Tridel. And that is that you read and review with your team this presentation, the data and the findings from the research work. There is this presentation, but there's also the actual data that we have available for everyone. My second ask is that you come to the table ready to roll up your sleeves, to collaborate and to do the work, to provide support, both tactile support, but also as thought leaders, keeping community voices primary in your collaboration. I want to leave you with some community voices we heard while we were doing this research. And I quote, "We are given the opportunity to dream, but not the means to make those dreams a reality. When there is no opportunity, people fall through the gaps. And if these companies are profiting off of us, they should give us an opportunity to also learn from them and a chance to work there. And you can't optimize people and profit at the same time." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail, for that update. Be sure to look out for the most recent report to be circulated shortly along with the recording of this meeting. Before we conclude, we want to take a moment to let you know again about the candlelight vigil taking place in Regent Park tonight at 9 p.m. at the Big Park. This is in memorial of the Muslim family and the recent news of the discovery of 215 Indigenous children in Kamloops, British Columbia, hosted by the Mothers of Peace group. Peter and Walied, I will pass it over to you for some concluding remarks.
Thanks. I'm going to be brief. This is the beginning of a process. We will be engaging with the community in a serious and substantive way on the community benefit plan and on the design of these final two phases of Regent Park. We need your support. We need your involvement. And we need your ideas in order to build a community we can all be proud of. And again, I would thank you very much for being with us here tonight. Walied, I'll turn it over to you for your final closing words. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I want to thank all the residents that attended this meeting today. We had about 160 participants that I could recall, maybe more. Thank you for your thoughtful questions. Thank you for engaging or re-engaging in this very important conversation regarding community benefits. And most importantly, welcoming our developer partner, Tridel. Regent Park has a rich and diverse cultural history of being always at the table, for being trendsetters, a community where so many passionate neighbors have got together, whether it's through the Neighborhood Association or through other organizations, non-for-profit organizations, where folks have committed to building a better future. And I want to acknowledge that our elected representatives, Member of Parliament, provincially Suze Morrison, our City Councillor Kristyn Wong-Tam, and other folks who've committed to supporting this work, whether it's our federal partners through our Member of Parliament, Mossy Ian, or other stakeholders. We thank you for demonstrating and speaking to that commitment. But what our community needs is action. And, we started off this conversation reflecting on the impact of, anti-Black racism, white supremacy, the systemic, challenges that continue to impact our community. As our developer partner, Danielle's also, and others witnessed the nooses, the symbols of white supremacy being hung in our communities, our neighborhoods, and the response from our neighbors against hate and a commitment to creating opportunities so that we are able to build bridges and ensure that folks in our community continue to live in this community So it's not just a community of millionaires. It's a community that's diverse. It's a community that continues to support newcomers and folks who call Toronto home, and most importantly, Regent Park home. Finally, I want you to thank not all of you for just participating, but I want to encourage all of you to get involved in this work, and also reach out to all the parties that are committed to making sure that we are successful in the revitalization of phase 4 and 5. So thank you and have a lovely evening. And please join us at the candlelight vigil tonight, where we'll stand with our lost Muslim family and 215 Indigenous children that were tragically discovered not too long ago, speaking to the systemic work that we all need to do to ensure that these tragedies end. So join us at the candlelight vigil hosted by Mothers of Peace at 9 o'clock at 600 Dundas Street East. Thank you once again.
Sorry, Wally, just before you go, I just want to reiterate the address for the vigil. It's 600 Dundas Street at the Big Park.
At the Big Park. Excellent.
Yes. So once again, that's 600 Dundas Street. Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Good night,
thank you, my friends, and good night.
Please do not forget to like, comment, and share to our channel. Follow us on all our social media platforms. And for more information, please check out our website.